Hey, this is Steve, MoneySavingOils.com. Steve and Brick with Amsoil, as you can see. I'm checking out our new Amsoil dealer magazine. This is my first broadcast on Periscope, so if it seems a little rough, that's because well, I had to redo my phone this morning. I woke up to a phone that wouldn't work, so we're back, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 46 years old. I've been an Amsoil dealer for about almost 8 months now, but I've been using Amsoil for 15 years. I originally used Amsoil in 2001 as a commercial truck driver for Busky Lines. I was a lease operator, and I made the decision to switch over to Amsoil to save time, and also because Amsoil has documented that it improves fuel economy in all vehicles, especially if you use it throughout the driveline, differentials, transmission, and the engine. After becoming a Amsoil dealer, I've learned a lot of technical information, which I have featured in videos at MoneySavingOils.com. Also, the first time I ever used Amsoil in my personal life as a commercial truck driver 15 years ago, I noticed that the oil stayed really clean whenever I would check the oil in the engine. And not only was it clean, as ridiculously clean as compared to traditional engine oil in a diesel engine, it was clean at 36,000 miles. Now, of course, I did install the dual element, dual guard, 3-micron bypass filters that filtered the oil every 45 minutes down to 3 microns. But I noticed that there was a consistency to the viscosity. Just got a notification here on Facebook. Somebody posted on my timeline. Sorry for the interruption. Just got a question from Carl Lamar, my friend from high school, back in the early 80s. He says, do you think it's okay to use that oil in older cars or trucks? It seems like some of the gaskets don't hold up to full synthetic oils. Let's see, broadcasting on Periscope now. Let me get back to him. Broadcasting on Periscope now. Use the @ sign at MoneySaving Oils. Broadcasting on Periscope live at MoneySaving Oils. It's all brand new, just doing this on the fly, and we'll get back to Carl there. Oops. There we go. Just now broadcasting on Periscope at MoneySaving Oils. Okay. Carl says, do you think it's okay to use that oil in older cars and trucks? It seems like some of the gaskets don't hold up to full synthetic oils. Good question, Carl. That's something that is actually addressed in our T1 dealer training. I actually have used Amsoil now in older vehicles, like 3 of them, and synthetic oils are actually better on gaskets than the petroleum-based lubricants that are just refined. They still have a lot of volatile components in there that are harder. In the conventional oils, you have more volatile components that are harder on seals than the synthetics. The issue is how worn out is the engine. Another thing, besides how worn out the engine is how dirty is the engine. This is something that I did not know about synthetics until I went through the Amsoil dealer training, which is about 15 hours of study, and then there's other training available as well. But a dirty engine will consume oil, and the engine may not necessarily be worn out. So one product that Amsoil produces is the engine and transmission flush. I recommend, if the engine is not completely worn out, I definitely recommend using the flush to get the varnish and sludge out of an engine. That could be, and usually is, the major cause of oil consumption when you switch over to a synthetic oil. Okay, it's the fact that the engine's dirty, and the varnish and the sludge is what's causing the oil consumption, because of it causes the clearances and stuff to be affected by the buildup in the engine. So what Amsoil recommends to stop oil consumption is first flush the engine, switch over to synthetics. If you still have high oil consumption, change the main full flow filter often. Now, often is something that you would have to decide based on how much you're using the vehicle, but that's what they recommend, is change the filter, because the synthetic lubricant is going to be cleaning the engine out as it's used over time. You're going to have deposits that continue to loosen up, and of course you're going to have to top off the engine with fresh oil. But according to Amsoil, the oil consumption should stabilize closer to normal consumption rates. The fact that the synthetics are a lot less volatile means they don't have components that evaporate due to high heat. That will slow down oil consumption dramatically, simply because of the nature of synthetic oil. Regular conventional oils they use the term volatile, they evaporate. There's components in there that evaporate, and that's from heat, that's what causes the oil consumption. So I wouldn't make a quick judgment call on a particular engine if whether or not you should use synthetics or not. I would try it. If you know the engine's really far gone, it's just going through oil like a sieve, then I wouldn't put good synthetic oil in there. I'd get a new engine and then use synthetics. Just if it's really consuming a lot of oil, the engine's worn out, don't waste the money on synthetic oil. Now, that's worst case scenario. I have used Amsoil in 3 older vehicles now. I used it for 4 years in a 96 Mazda MPV that had 155,000 miles on it when I bought it, and I switched it over to Amsoil, and I noticed the actual oil consumption decreased over time. I put about 33,000 miles on it before I sold it, and I was using, first I did the engine flush, then I did put in, that particular vehicle used 5W30, no, it was 10W30. That one used 10W30 on the 96 Mazda MPV with a 3-liter V6. And I was using, I think it would go through about a quart of oil per year in consumption on an annual oil change. I was using Amsoil Signature Series oil in that vehicle with their full flow filter, and I was not using bypass filtration like I am on my current service van. So I had really good experience, especially with the transmission, because people told me that my transmission was going to go out because I kept the van loaded heavy when I used it for a service van, and I had taken all the seats out, had a lot of equipment in it, and I was also pulling a trailer that was not really heavy, but a single axle trailer, probably about 400 or 500 pounds there on the trailer, maybe a little more. And I never had any issues with the transmission. It ran flawlessly for 33,000 miles. So when I sold it, I had 188,000 miles on it, right around 188, 189. And the individual that has the van now actually sold it for more than I paid for it originally. Of course, I put some maintenance into it, so it was actually worth more. But I think probably the most significant maintenance that I ever did on the van was the fact that I immediately switched it over to Amsoil as soon as I bought it, and that's all I ran in it. The guy that I sold it to is still using it now. That's a 20-year-old vehicle. So talk about a blessing. He didn't have a lot of money, but he needed a dependable vehicle, and now he's put seats back in it, and he's using it to haul his family around and kids. Somebody just accepted a friend request. Sorry about that. Got interrupted. I also used it in an older Chevy pickup truck, but that engine was really loose. Back like an 81, 305. Ran good. I know the synthetic saved my engine one morning early. I was on the freeway trying to get to work, and it was before sunup, and I lost the front main seal on an older 305 Chevy. And when they towed the engine, towed the truck into the shop, he likes my photo. My friend Carl just responded on Facebook. All they did was put on a speedy sleeve on the front shaft and a new seal, and topped it off with the oil they happen to have in-house, and the engine started right up. So right there I know Amsoil saved my motor, because I lost all the oil in that engine. Lost all oil pressure, kind of forced it, pushed it a little too hard to get off the interstate, because I was trying to take a next off-ramp that was a mile down the road. That really saved my butt in terms of catastrophic engine damage that normally would have probably occurred losing all the oil pressure. Now, back to taking some time with allowing the engine to clean up. I've seen other Amsoil dealers mention this, where they got older vehicles that were from like the late 70s, and they switched them over synthetics, and they went through the flushing, the filter changing, topping off the oil, and finally the engine oil consumption stabilized. But it doesn't happen immediately, so be aware of that. If you do switch one over, if you think the engine's still got some life to it, and be aware that it takes a while for the engine to clean up. So you'll change the filters, top off the oil, and do that a few times. Now that would be the last step before you decide, hey, I need a new engine. You just got to be, before you start blaming the oils, it's really important to understand what's actually causing the problem. Amsoil has already proven to be incredible. The only oil so far on the market that has passed an industry standard dual 3G test, which means it ran for 300, actually ran for 2 cycles of the 3G test, which is the equivalent of 50,000 miles each cycle at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And Amsoil is the only oil on the market right now that has done that, where they can run 2 cycles and still pass the performance tolerances or specifications. That's incredible. 100,000 miles technically on a 300 degree engine on one batch of oil, one oil change. Synthetics are completely explained on our website at moneysaving-oils.com. The director of the technical department there, he explains how this is something I was going to talk about. I also own a window cleaning service, and people frequently ask me, why do professional window cleaners get windows so clean, and they make it look so effortless? And that's because a really good window cleaner understands window cleaning on a molecular level. They understand what's going on a microscopic level. So for somebody to say, a certain oil is better than another oil, if they have not actually done testing, methodic testing like Amsoil does, they really don't know what they're talking about. They're just talking. I mean, they're just throwing their opinion around, which typically is not worth too much. You can't make a judgment call on the quality of lubricants just based on a minor amount of experience. And to say that all oils are going to perform a certain way based on one person's isolated experience with oil is absolutely crazy. So it takes time. If you've never tried Amsoil, I encourage you to try it. I encourage you to get the lowest price by being an Amsoil preferred customer. That's basically, I think it's $10 for 6 months, and that entitles you to get Amsoil products at wholesale pricing, 25% off of retail. It also gives you a monthly magazine. Amsoil magazine lets you know what's current developments with Amsoil. I think I'll probably send you out some email updates too with the company, because they're always coming out with new products. They just recently came out with a dirt bike transmission fluid product, which expands their dirt bike market, and they had really good sales numbers on all their new dirt bike products, which they were surprised to receive. Amsoil has the largest synthetic selection of products in the industry, and you'll see on our telephone ordering line page at moneysaving-oils.com, you'll see a list there of awards that Amsoil has received, all the different first accomplishments in the lubricant industry. Obviously, synthetics are the cutting edge, but not all synthetics are created equal. And I know that I believe that one of the key elements for Amsoil offering the greatest value in the synthetic lubricants industry is the fact that they market with people like me, independent representatives who are only paid to go out there and efficiently and effectively represent the product on a one-on-one basis with people, versus spending hundreds of millions of dollars on mass advertising like traditional gas companies, oil companies do. So when it comes to value, Amsoil spends their money on making sure they're the best, and their real salesperson is the products. So if you want to find out what Amsoil is all about, try the products. That pretty much speaks for itself. There's a really good video on moneysaving-oils.com that shows the technical performances of Amsoil grease compared to other leading brands like Lucas and like Caterpillar and Case. Some of these huge industry names that you would think would have great greases to grease their equipment. I remember recently I was just reading one of the articles in the latest Amsoil dealer magazine. They were talking about how Ski-Doo makes snowmobiles, and Ski-Doo was saying that if customers didn't use the Ski-Doo XPS oil, that their warranty was going to be voided, and that's totally against the law. As long as the lubricant meets the performance specifications of the piece of equipment, it doesn't matter what oil you use. They cannot void your warranty under the Magnuson-Moss Act. No manufacturer can void your warranty if you don't use their lubricant. That's a lie, and that's illegal. As a matter of fact, Amsoil actually tests the Amsoil Interceptor oil, their two-stroke oil used in snowmobiles, against the Ski-Doo XPS oil. They actually run tests, and they actually document through laboratory testing that the Interceptor oil actually runs cleaner and protects the engine better than XPS from Ski-Doo. All right. Oh yeah, somebody's asking me to go to their broadcast. Well, I'm broadcasting, so I won't be going to their broadcast. That's a few insider tips. So I was mentioning how on a molecular level, Amsoil is scientifically engineered down to the molecular level. So if you really want to know why Amsoil works better, then figure out a way to look at Amsoil on a molecular level, because that's where the rubber meets the road, is what's happening molecularly. The conventional oils give a place molecularly for oxygen to cause oxidation and to break down conventional oils, causing sludge and varnish buildup. And that's where Amsoil differs. They don't have those open attachment places on the molecular level for oxygen to degrade, break down the synthetic molecules. Same is true with like the additive packages. There's a higher base number. They call it TBN, total base number. So the Amsoil lubricants have much higher base numbers to start out with, which counteract or neutralize the acids that break down oils typically. That's a big deal. So not all synthetics are created equal. There's different additives in different synthetic lubricants. It's not just the synthetic base oils that are critical. Another aspect of it is the additives. So that's one thing that's one area where Amsoil really shines, is they have a much more extensive and protecting additive package in their oils. Well, that's it for right now. Again, you can order at moneysavingoils.com, www.moneysavingoils.com. If you need my help, if you need some assistance, technical questions, there's a technical line directly to Amsoil on our telephone ordering page at moneysavingoils.com. The link's over on the right-hand side. Just click that link, and there's easy links and videos, explanations there, pictures of our bypass filtration. I run the bypass filtration right now on my van. This is before I go, I wanted to mention that bypass filtration it should be on every vehicle that comes from the factory. You're talking about, on a mass scale, you're talking about less than $100 worth of parts. On a retail scale or a private consumer level, you have to pay a little more for it, for the individual, delivery, I guess, in terms of value. But in my opinion, bypass filtration should be on every engine that's worth of any significant value, like cars and tractors and semi-trucks. That should be standard equipment, because bypass filtration down to 2 or 3 microns is what eliminates over 60% of engine wear. Also extends the life of your oil. Primarily extends the life of your equipment, keeps it clean, and prevents oil consumption, much more so than without it. And like the filter on my van, it'll last 60,000 miles for bypass filtration. It's a 2 micron bypass filter. It filters all the engine oil down to 2 microns every 10 minutes while the engine's running. And then the full filter I use, the EAO absolute efficiency filter that I use on my van, is rated at 25,000 miles or 1 year, whichever comes first. So between the premium synthetic lubricants from Amsoil and their bypass filtration, you basically make your engine immortal, dramatically reducing maintenance. And if you use the synthetic lubricants throughout the drivetrain, including the transmission and the differentials, then you dramatically improve your fuel economy. If you could get over 1 million miles on your transmission simply by changing your transmission fluid every 100,000 miles and using Amsoil, why not? I mean, that's a no-brainer. A cooler transmission, 1 million miles, more than likely, plus. I know a guy that's done that already with his Chevy van, 1999 Chevy Express van. He's documented. He's actually a case study of Amsoil's. He didn't have the fine particles on the magnetic drain plug on his transmission when he does change the Amsoil synthetic lubricants, and most people think that that is normal. That is not normal. You do not have that kind of wear on a transmission if you're using Amsoil's transmission fluid versus conventional. I know I've seen it every time I've changed transmission fluid using conventional fluids. I tried to get my mother to use Amsoil years ago, and she never would, and then her transmission went out. Then she comes crying to me, about how much money she had to spend on her vehicle because her transmission went out. And I just have to, I have to bite my tongue. I want to say, well, I told you so, and I tried to help you. But now you're having to pay. So you either pay a little bit now or you pay later. Vehicles should get a lot more life than they do. And for a few $100s, you can get a lot more life out of your engine and dramatically reduce your maintenance time. So you don't have to change the oil as often. You actually, with the dual remote bypass filter system, you can actually relocate your oil filters so they're easier to get to and make it easier to change your filters when they need it. All right, thanks for watching. Again, my name is Stephen Brick. I'm an Amsoil dealer. My dealer number is 511-3474. Again, that's 511-3474. I appreciate your time. You can check us out on a fairly regular basis. I'm going to make this broadcast. It'll probably be somewhat similar, so if you want to send people back here to see my broadcast, you can see my tweets on Twitter at Money Saving Oils. So it's on Twitter at Money Saving Oils and on Periscope at Money Saving Oils, and then MoneySavingOils.com. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.